This is Tasting Notes with Bear Bo. Sorry. Wow, second six. Sorry about that. This is Tasting Notes with Bo Barrett.
I'm Bo Barrett at Chateau Montelena Winery up in Calistoga, California. And I'm here to answer a good question you might have. Why in the world bother aging Chardonnay or any white wine? It's a good question, and it really comes down to where the white wines were developed in Northern Europe and in Burgundy, France in particular. When we started in 1972, there weren't any new world wines to speak of. Nobody had developed California Chardonnay or anything. So we naturally modeled our wines on the classic wines of Europe, which are the great white Burgundies. And guess what? They age magnificently. So since we were such an old and classic company, we decided to make Chardonnay to age. The thing on white wine is you gotta remember there are no natural antioxidants. So white wine, as soon as it's in the bottle, it's always gonna start losing fruit, and the fruit's gonna go down and down and down over time. So the more fruit you put in the bottle, the longer the wine is going to last. And then the hand of man comes in, the things we add to the wine, like if we grow it in mineral soil and the minerality, or the oak, or the yeast, or in many cases, the malolactic fermentation, all those hand of man things come up over time. They don't move, they're fixtures, but the fruit drops down. So what we make wine for is when you want to drink it, as the French would say, à point, right at that balance point where there's still a lot of fruit left, but all the other complexities of the wine come out. So what we have here today is our 2018 Chardonnay, and this is our current release. So we aged our Chardonnay really 3 years old when we sell them. So we're really making wines to age. So this is our current release, and when you take it and smell it, it's just a big bowl of fruit. It's really vibrant, full of fresh Chardonnay, California sunlight, and really brilliant aromas. And this is where it's gonna show the most. So it's very primary. It has really strong sunlight and bright fruit flavors that we get here in Napa Valley making Chardonnay. The fruit's very ripe, and it has really pear and bright apple and a lot of fresh fruit in it. And you really can't pick up, the oak or the yeast or anything. It's just really pure vineyard-driven flavors. The same thing on the palate. Really bright, expansive, and primarily all the fruit. Now, about 15, 20, 30 seconds in, I start to get some of the other layers of flavors in there. So then we have now the 2013 Chardonnay, and as I said, we're in 2021, so you can do the math, how old this wine is. At Montelena, we actually designed the wines to come into that balance point at 5 to 7 years. In warmer years, it'll be about 5 years. But in cooler years, it takes a little bit longer, maybe 7 years, but that's okay with us. So we pour in the 2013, and right off the bat, it has this, I hate to use fancy wine terms like opulent, but it's a richer, more tonal. Does that say more? If you think about like a symphony where there's other instruments come into play, where this is more of a solo Chardonnay, all of a sudden you start to get a little bit of the yeast and the oak. They're gonna fly by. We're out in the vineyard. Can you tell? Can you hear the geese flying by? There they go. On the palate, it gets just definitely, again, to use a fancy wine word, more opulent. It's really, just has this really rich, almost like creme brulee flavor that comes out. And the wine was just as bright and fruity as this one 5 years ago, but now it just has this layer. So again, this is like a really great food wine because it has you can really get into it, and it's a more complexity, and it just adds another layer to your enjoyment. With the Chardonnay in general, being from Northern California, we would go with something on the younger wine, something like a salmon, a grilled salmon, and we don't like it very well cooked up here. We like the salmon pretty, just like warm butter a little bit, and that kind of softness, and the Chardonnay would go with that because the sweetness of the salmon and the richness would then be offset by the brightness and the intensity of a younger Chardonnay. And when you get into Chardonnay, if you taste it, if the same salmon, but if you had that lobster bisque on the top, that red sauce they put on, or the orange sauce they put from the lobster, then that would be really awesome because then, again, you add another layer of complexity to your cuisine, and then you add another layer of complexity to the wine. So if a simple thing, yeah, like fresh salmon, boom, we're gonna drink the young wine. Salmon that's gonna be at a fancy, dinner or something at the winery, then we would go with the older wine. It'd be really nice like that. So in the 2013, you'll see that there's a little bit of a color difference where it picks up a more golden hue. And as Chardonnay ages, because we also have like our 2011 that we're pouring now too, that's 10 years old, that it has more hue. So that's, again, when we're talking about the oxidation of the wine, it starts to pick up a more golden tonal hue. But that also indicates, that color change indicates a layering and exposure of the other aspects of the wine. So they change color, they do get a little darker, and so when they get really caramely color, that doesn't mean it's bad anymore. You just have to taste through it and stuff like that, see what you think. But it's something that you learn to appreciate over time. It's just the complexities and the layering that really start to show. If the wine continues past 5 or 6 or 7 years, and the 10, 11, 12, 20, we make wine to age like the Great White Burgundies, and so they do really well. And then, but they pick up a little more color and tone, and then the fruit just keeps dropping off. So the fundamental structure and the hand of man, whether how much oak we use or how much minerals are in there, those become apparent at 5 to 7 years. And then as the fruit continues to drop off, the fruit's dropping off, then those start to dominate the wine. So many, especially old world people, really like the wines where the fruit's dropped off and there's all that minerality and the oak and the richness and the tones drive or really are powering the wine on the palate, as opposed to many Americans and stuff like where we like wines bright and fresh and juicy and bright. So it becomes a personal decision that everybody has to learn and to see, what do I like? People like me, I like both, and there's no reason you can't like both. Like the aged Chardonnay, boom, it's good stuff if you're at the right time. But the young, bright stuff, let's drink that too. So it really becomes part of the whole big experience of enjoying wine, that you can really get into it and look at it and say, and as you look at the color and the depth and the flavor and look at the whole package of the wines bringing all the way to the aftertaste, it's just another really fun thing you could do in your journey of enjoying wine.